Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're setting the stage for a deep, completely objective dive into what is arguably one of the most polarizing, heavily debated blockchains in the entire industry. I'm talking, of course, about Cardano.
You know, Cardano has this well-known reputation as a slow-shipping, really deliberately paced project. In a crypto landscape that usually celebrates moving fast and, well, breaking things, Cardano has stubbornly stuck to a totally different path. But it really begs the question, does this slow and steady approach actually win the race, or does it just leave you in the dust? To figure that out, we're going to map out this massive ecosystem in 6 quick steps. We'll look at its peer-reviewed origins, check under the hood of the architecture, explore the developer toolkit, dive into scaling and privacy, unpack the new Voltaire governance era, and finally do a reality check comparison against its top rivals. Let's get into it. Okay, Section 1, the peer-reviewed blockchain. So, unlike that classic Silicon Valley move fast and break things ethos we just talked about, Cardano's founder, Charles Hoskinson, chose more of a measure twice, cut once philosophy. Actually, Hoskinson left Ethereum back in 2014 specifically to build a network rooted in formal mathematical verification. The engineering team behind all this, Input-Output Global, or IOG for short, took a pretty wild approach. They chose to publish over 200 peer-reviewed academic papers in top-tier computer science journals before writing a single line of production code. Literally 200 papers. They wanted to mathematically prove their protocols worked before risking a single cent of anyone's money.
Now, as you might guess, Cardano's evolution didn't happen all at once. It was carefully plotted across 5 distinct eras. It started with Byron laying the foundation in 2017, then moved through Shelley for decentralization, Goguen for smart contracts, and Basho for scaling. And that brings us to today's Voltaire era, which is all about transitioning the network from a federated foundation into a fully community-governed ecosystem. Moving right along to Section 2, under Cardano's hood. Let's look at the tech stack engine. Right at the core of Cardano is Ouroboros. And to cut through the heavy jargon here, Ouroboros is basically the first proof-of-stake consensus protocol mathematically proven to be just as secure as Bitcoin's proof of work. How does it do it? Well, it works by dividing time into what it calls epochs, which are then sliced up further into 1-second slots. For every single slot, the network randomly and securely selects a block leader based on the amount of ADA they have staked. This is absolutely crucial because it achieves secure consensus without that massive, country-sized energy drain you get with traditional proof-of-work mining. And this actually leads us to one of Cardano's most vital architectural choices, its extended UTXO, or eUTXO model. Unlike Ethereum's account-based model, which processes transactions sequentially in a global state, kind of like a standard bank ledger, Cardano extends Bitcoin's unspent transaction output model. So what does that mean for you? It allows for parallel processing and deterministic validity. The main takeaway here is that on Cardano, you know exactly what a transaction will cost before you even click send. That means no more losing your crypto to a failed gas fee, which, let's be honest, happens way too often on Ethereum. Next up, Section 3, the developer's toolkit. How do you actually build on this thing? So Cardano intentionally splits its network into 2 completely separate layers, the Cardano settlement layer, or CSL, and the Cardano computation layer, the CCL. The CSL simply handles the movement of ADA value, the money part. Meanwhile, the CCL handles all the complex logic of smart contracts. By isolating these 2 layers, a bug inside a decentralized app on the computation layer cannot directly compromise the underlying settlement ledger. It's like having your vault completely separated from your storefront. It's a massive security upgrade built right into the base code. Now, building on this layered architecture requires specific programming languages, and the evolution here is actually really fascinating. Cardano's base is written in Haskell, which is a notoriously strict and super secure functional language. For smart contracts, developers initially had to use a language called Plutus. But to make the network way more accessible, they introduced Marlow, which is this cool, visual, puzzle piece-like language for financial contracts. And then came Aiken. Aiken allows developers to write code using a highly accessible, modern, Rust-like syntax. It is a real game changer that dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for new developers. All right, Section 4, scaling and privacy solutions. So the big question is figuring out how Cardano scales and adds privacy without, breaking that secure foundation we just talked about. Enter the Midnight sidechain. Midnight uses a dual token model to provide something it calls rational privacy. Unlike traditional privacy coins that just obscure absolutely everything, rational privacy allows for programmable selective transparency.
It's specifically designed to attract enterprise compliance, and it's working. Giants like Google, Vodafone, and other Fortune 500 companies are already involved as node operators for Midnight's federated mainnet. Pretty impressive, right? But for raw scaling, Cardano utilizes a Layer 2 solution called Hydra. Hydra operates using these off-chain state channels known as heads. Participants can basically lock funds on the main chain, transact off-chain at blazing speeds with near zero fees, and then just settle the final state back on the main layer. To prove how incredibly well these scale in parallel for high-throughput stuff, the Hydra protocol actually ran the classic video game Doom entirely on-chain. It processed up to 90 million transactions in a single day. 90 million? Moving to Section 5, the Voltaire governance era, handing over the keys. Before you can govern, you need to stake. And staking ADA is an incredibly easy, 5-minute process. You choose a wallet, create it, transfer your ADA, pick a staking pool, and literally just click Delegate. Why this matters to you is because, unlike a lot of other networks, Cardano has zero lockup period, meaning you can spend your ADA anytime you want. Plus, there's zero slashing risk, so you'll never be penalized if your pool makes a mistake. Oh, and you only need a completely refundable deposit of just 2 ADA to start participating and earning rewards. Staking naturally feeds right into Voltaire's on-chain governance, which was actually just recently activated by the chain hard fork. Now, any ADA holder can delegate their voting power to delegated representatives, or DREPs. These DREPs vote on the network's future, and they're guided by a community-ratified Cardano constitution. But the kicker here? They actually manage a massive decentralized treasury holding over 1 billion ADA. That's a billion with a B, all dedicated to funding future ecosystem development. All right, Section 6, Cardano versus the competition. It's time for the reality check. When we line up the top networks side by side, it paints a really clear picture. Cardano boasts zero outages since its Shelley era and has unmatched peer-reviewed safety. But it only sits in the top 15 to 20 for total value locked, or TVL. Now look at Ethereum. It also boasts zero outages and is the absolute undisputed king of TVL and liquidity, but it definitely struggles with higher Layer 1 fees and lower base speeds. And then there's Solana. Solana offers this blinding raw speed of thousands of transactions per second and sits comfortably in the top 3 for TVL, but it has historically suffered from multiple network outages. To be completely objective here, we have to look at the legitimate criticisms of the Cardano ecosystem too. That rigorous academic approach, well, it means slow shipping. New features can literally take years to reach the market. Additionally, its TVL is quite low relative to its massive market cap, which suggests to some that it's currently valued more for its potential than its actual on-chain economic activity. It also faces a much smaller overall developer pool compared to its main rivals. Oh, and its marketing? It can sometimes be highly polarizing within the broader crypto community. Which brings us to a lingering, provocative thought. Cardano is undeniably one of the most rigorously engineered, secure, and decentralized blockchains ever built. No question. But in a hyper-competitive, fast-paced digital economy, you kind of have to decide for yourself. Will this deliberate, peer-reviewed academic approach ultimately triumph in the long run? Or has the broader market already chosen raw speed and momentum over perfection? That is the explainer for today. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.